Welcome to Arash's World. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Keren Tsuk, who's going to talk about wisdom and leadership. Welcome to Arash's World, Keren.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great, thank you. So I would like to get started with you introducing yourself in any way you see fit. Who are you? What do you do? And what are you interested in?
Okay, it's a big question.
Yes.
So I will start with saying that I'm the owner and founder of Wisdom to Lead, a consulting company. In the last 20 years, I'm working with leading firms and companies to change process and promote growth. I've conducted a PhD, actually a case study, a 2 years case study in a IT company, which my leading question was, what is the role of leaders nowadays in leading financially successful organizations, alongside motivating the employees for meaningfulness and intrinsic motivation. And I found that mindfulness is a crucial element that we'll need to embrace as leaders, as individuals, in order to lead cutting-edge organizations. And I developed a mindfulness-based leadership course and retreat, which we facilitate in global organizations like Checkpoint, Baron, Siemens, etc. And I just launched my new book, Mindfully Wise Leadership, The Secret of Today's Leaders. So this is where I'm coming from. I'm connecting the consciousness and mindfulness world with the business and leadership world.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. So mindfulness and wisdom, those are two, and leadership. Those are things that I'm very fascinated about. And I think there is hope that a lot of people are taking that path now, a more holistic path, and of changing the structure too, because we know that the old structure worked in its time, but it's not as effective as your ideas would be. And let's talk a bit more about what is it that you're offering without giving too many secrets. Right? We want people to look for the book, Mindfully Wise Leadership, The Secret of Today's Leaders. But let's just see, what is mindfulness for you? How would you define it? Especially in a context of a company and leadership.
Yeah. So, the classical definition of Dr. John Kabat-Zinn for mindfulness is the ability to be present in the present moment intentionally, not judgmentally. However, the definition that I bring to mindfulness is the ability to be aware of an experience that we are going through. It can be a thought that runs through my mind, an emotion that I'm feeling right now, a process that I'm going through in a not judgmental way, and without being managed by it. So, for example, it's like Viktor Frankl says, it's the space between the stimulations and the response, right? As we broaden this space, we have a free choice to choose our behavior. And actually, all day long, we are triggered, right? For an example, if I'm working in a company and I have a colleague that touches my buttons, and every time I see him, I get angry. So instead of shouting at him and acting upon my anger, being mindful it means to take a deep breath to this feeling, understanding that a part of me is now angry, and deciding what do I want to do with it. Maybe I want to pause for 5 minutes and come back fresh to the conversation, or maybe I want to speak my emotion and tell him, Roger, I'm really angry right now. I think it's better that we take time off. So it's being able to choose and being proactive instead of reactive.
I love it. And so choice is important here. A lot of people are triggered and they act or basically react immediately towards that. And we've seen it, and we see it all the time. And so when you're in a position of leadership, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of frustration. And again, that moment, and I think you call it dialogue space too, before you talk, maybe before you communicate, just make sure that you're not just driven by your fears, anxieties, frustrations, negative feelings, and try to see it in a different way. I think that is hugely important, instead of just reacting quickly to the situation. And we see it in the structures too. When they're angry, they shout at you and so on. But it's actually not productive at all.
At all. Yes, it's being mindful and present. It's the ability to have presence and not to be moved by the winds of change. It's to have an anchor, right? And when someone triggers us or a situation triggers us, to choose what to do with it. And according to the dialogue space, I found it as a central tool for leaders to lead nowadays, innovative company. What does it mean? It means that when we are have a situation like we're developing a product or a process that we are not sure about it, and we have different viewpoints about it. So it's actually creating space and inviting people to show up fully with their experience regarding this issue, and to respect each other, and enabling ourselves not to know the answer. Usually leaders were taught that they need to have all the answers, but we can't anymore, right? So we need to be able to hold the tension and to be in the uncertainty area, and to allow people to be there. And from being there, mindful and present, and listening to each other, and respecting different voices, and bringing ourselves fully, something new can emerge. Otherwise, we're doing more of the same, right? We're not really innovating.
Yeah, and so one thing I've noticed, there's a lot of micromanagement where I think the leaders and the corporate and the executives, they don't really trust the employee. They don't think they will get it done. They think they're probably also lazy, and they have all these preconceived notions about them, which are generally tend to be negative. And so how can we deal with that? That the relationship between the employer and employee changes, so that and the employee has also various preconceived notions about the employer. So that is something, finding that balance in between. So how can we do that on both sides? Yeah.
So first of all, I really believe that it starts within ourselves. We need, first of all, to trust ourselves, to be mindful and present, and even to be vulnerable, and to show up fully. And once I trust myself, I can come to my employee and be transparent with them and tell them, look, this is a situation. I'm not sure what the right solution is right now. What do you think about it? And creating a frank communication and open communication. And I think communication is a crucial element to create trust, because if we don't communicate, each and every one holds his own story in his mind, and we're starting to create barriers between us. But once we do communicate, and there's no over communication, especially now in the Zoom, in the hybrid workplace, we need to over communicate. Otherwise, we won't be able to engage people and to create trust. So for me, this is a crucial tool.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And so, but and you mentioned earlier, so I think one of the problems is also perfectionism, and being afraid of showing insecurity or weakness. And that is a hard thing to do for many people. And especially when you're in a leadership position, you say, I have to know everything. I have to have all the answers. I'm in education. I've worked in education. And so when you accept that you don't know something, you already lost points also in the view of the students. They say, how come you don't know the answer to that? But that's actually a sign of strength, of being able to accept that and say, I'm not perfect. But we do have that drive for perfectionism. So what would be a possible antidote? Mindfulness would be, I think, very important for that, to reach that. But it's also in society, it's all around us, right? That drive for perfection.
Yes, but I'm not sure it's actually the drive for perfection that don't allow us to show up fully. We need to feel a safe environment, that if I will show up and say, look, I don't know all the answers, what do you think about it? People won't use it against me. This is the essence of trust, right? So it's creating a environment that nourishes trust, nourishes respect. And once I feel safe, I can be able to bring myself. So it's not the perfectionism, it's the being able to show up fully. And, it's something we need to evolve toward it, because it's not a comfort zone, right? A comfort zone is to show a coherent identity that I know everything, I have it all in hand, but that's not the situation anymore. We can't have it all, right? We don't know all the answers. What can we do?
Yeah, and we see it globally too. And scientists who always used to have the answers and we trusted them, and now they're saying, well, we just don't know. This is a situation we're trying to figure out. But again, we have to work together to reach it. But a lot of people also become workaholics. They feel they have to work a lot. They never stop. They don't have a balance between their life and their work. How can we find that balance? And what can we tell ourselves to not fall into that trap of overworking?
Again, it comes back to listening to ourselves, right? To our own experience. If I feel burnt out, I don't need to continue working or to wait till I will collapse. I need to listen to myself and say, okay, this is the capacity I want to work. And from now on, I want to be with my kids and with my friends, with family. I want to have life. So we need to have the right boundaries for ourselves. So it's personal boundaries. Each and everyone acts differently, but the invitation, I think, it's to listen to ourselves. If I feel great, if it's, sometimes we do work a lot, and sometimes we can work less. It's in the periods. It's not something, can I say, work 8 hours today and tomorrow 5 hours. No, it changes. But I think the main anchor, we need to have to listen to ourselves if we feel well with it. If not, so something doesn't work well, and we need to change it.
Yes, absolutely. The old concept is the 9 to 5 office hours. And so you work in the office for that time, and it seems like you're doing time. It's not really related to productivity. It's I just serve my time, and time is money, and I get paid for it, and that's it. But that doesn't help anyone, neither myself, nor the employer, nor the company. So I think that should be another shift, a paradigm shift of like seeing productivity and work in a different way, not just to measure it with time here.
That's for sure. First of all, there's a new movement, I know, that's starting 4 days work a week. Yeah. So, you're going toward this to work less. And even when we're working, at the end of the day in the corporate world, in the companies, you need to give your employees the freedom to do it the way they want to, and give them the time and ask for the results, and enable them to space to create it on their own. So people are much more productive, and they have their techniques to do it. And when it works for them, someone loves to work early in the morning, someone likes to work later. So, it's finding the right balance for you. And once you find the right balance for you and the company, it works well. So there need to be also an alignment.
Mm-hmm. And the autonomy to also to give your employees autonomy, so they can kind of pick and choose as well, of course, to a certain degree. But I think that when you do have autonomy, it makes you feel happier. You feel like you're contributing more, and you will do it more sincerely. And you say, yes, I'm doing this because I believe in the company. I believe in this leadership. And the opposite, then you sabotage it, and you just say, I did my time, I'm done. I don't want to do anything more. And I think that is that kind of like trust. I think employees need to feel that kind of like, yes, I'm supported, but also I'm given a bit of decision making there. I have a choice here. I can choose minor things. I can have a plant on my desk and things like that, because that makes a huge difference.
For sure. First of all, we're talking nowadays about self-management. At the end of the day, each and every one needs to manage himself and not have a outside external control, because once there is external control, I can't take ownership and responsibility for what I'm doing. So the way to do it is, yes, as you said, it's a nice something that I heard, nice metaphor, that people, when they are standing on a high roof, if there won't be a guarder, they won't reach to the end of the roof because they will be afraid to fall, right? But if there will be boundaries there, they will explode. They will go to the edge in order to explore themselves. And it's the same as in the workplace. You need to give them a safety. You need to give them boundaries, but you need to give them space to evolve, to be creative, to bring themselves fully. And then the employer will also win from it, because they will really bring the added value. Otherwise, you have cogs, you don't have creative people. And, at the end of the day, we're working from our mind nowadays and from our heart. And we want to be passionate and compassionate and creative. So to bring the most of ourselves in order for the company to flourish. So I think it's finding the balance. What I found in my research and talking about in my book, a crucial skill nowadays for leaders and individuals is the ability to hold tensions, because the modern world is full of tension between the long term and the short term, right? Between the employees' needs and the organization needs, between speed and quality. So, and the main tension that I found that characterize the new leadership is between the doing mode and the being mode. Because as leader, we learned that we need to have the right resource to do the right thing, to be busy, busy, busy. And the new leadership say, no, stop. We need to learn to pause, to listen, to accurate, fine-tune our way, our products, our services. And then we're doing out of presence, out of being, and it's much more productive. And we invest minimum effort and gain maximum result, and are really creative and enjoying what we do. So this is, for me, the solution for the new generations.
I think there are two things that are at play here. One is competition. So we want to be competitive. The problem of that is that we're competing with everybody, even the own company and even with the fellow employees. So there's not that kind of bonding there, that kind of trust also, because if I can be better than you, then it's kind of like in the business, when you see businesses where they say, okay, I want to be the employee, I want to be the best one, employee of the month, and then you want to be it, but then you're like competing in terms of getting to the top, but it's not really serving the whole purpose. There's no unity there. So, and that kind of competition, I think it's good to have the others as a competitor, but not within the company itself.
So it's a new definition, co-opetition, cooperation and
okay.
finding the balance we talk now.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I think our own ambitions, though. There are a lot of people that idea is ingrained in us. Time is money, and you think if I devote more time, I will get more money. And we have leaders who just don't have time for friendships or relationships or anything like that because they're fully focused. I need to make the most out of this, and that actually is counterproductive, because when you are actually overworked, you fail to be creative, you fail to think, you fail to involve the unconscious in terms of decision making and ideas. And so I've read the best thing is to be slightly underworked, like a bit underworked, because then you give yourself space and room. And it's that moment in the shower where you get the brilliant idea. It's that moment when you're taking a walk. And we're not taking advantage of that, especially leaders. I don't think they are. They're just constantly driven by, I have to come up with a solution instead of relaxing and let the solution come to you.
That's so great. I so completely agree with you, because, in one of the company, when I conducted the research, one of the programmer told me, when I got stuck and I can't figure out what to do, I leave the computer and go to play billiard. They had a billiard room. And then I have an epiphany and the solution emerged. So it's amazing. Sometimes we need to take ourselves out of the situation in order to enable space. And when I'm working with leaders and managers, I'm telling them, put in the calendar 30 minutes time with yourself, sitting in front of the sea. And they look at me like, are you crazy? We don't have time for it. But it's the opposite. Once you will create place and space, you will be much more productive and creative. And we need to change our mindset, because we learned that we need to run after our tails in order to.
I watched, and you mentioned violin. I watched a biography on Albert Einstein, the series Genius. And so his greatest ideas come in like ordinary moments. He's taking the elevator and he has one of his great theories then, or he's playing the violin as well. So I think it's really like making sure we do have a work-life balance and to take time off. One of the things I used to do for a while is I wouldn't take a day off. I work every day, every single day. And it really stressed me out. It was a really close to a burnout. But then now I have like a strict rule. I say Sundays are completely off limits. I have to do no work and even not think about it. And that space is so relaxing, because then I go back with more enthusiasm, with more energy to the work, and look forward to it instead of being dragged down by it.
That's amazing. And you talked about the fact that leaders don't have time to connection and friends. And I think it's a pity, because at the end of the day, sitting with people, talking and fueling ourselves with what we love, as you said, we'll have more energy and we even be more productive. So we do need to find, even if it's counterintuitive and we feel it's not productive, we need to create this place and think what fuels us. Maybe go jogging, maybe meet a friend for a coffee, maybe go to your parents. I don't know. Find what makes you feel alive, or not only your job. And it will also increase your ability to be more creative on the job. So yeah, I think we agree on that.
Would that be like also looking at the SPIRE model of including all aspects of the self, the SPIRE model of like spirituality, physical, relational, emotional, and so on, of finding, so it's not just the leadership doesn't just depend on the work itself and the workplace, but it goes beyond that. So to be an effective leader, it should also be across the spectrum in pretty much all areas of your life. Would you agree with that? That is really necessary for being really fully there, fully present?
I believe that yes, because we're complete persons and we have different. I always like to give a metaphor like a pizza, right? We have you have an onion pizza, a cucumber pizza, or whatever, and you want to bring all your pieces to the workplace. And if you ignore a few of them, you create split within yourself. And once you're full and you feel you have great relationships at home and great friends and great work, so you are a complete person. And if you neglect one of your aspects, so you neglect part of you, so you're not showing up fully to your workplace because you're not connected to your whole self. This is how I see it. What do you think about it?
I think a lot of people now, that's why we have people who are resigning their jobs, because they realize there's a mismatch. This is not what gives me my life meaning, and this is not what gives me pleasure. And they switch. And I think that is the pandemic has given us that time for self-reflection. It is forced self-reflection. And I'm somebody who loves to self-reflect ever since I was a teen. I would just constantly think about things and analyze things, and this is what I want to do. But now it's great because the whole world has come to a standstill to do that. And we see the effects, and it looks chaotic right now, but it will sort itself out. And I think it is going in the right direction. The fact that we're talking about 4-day work weeks is amazing, because this was something I thought, a weekend is often just not enough to recharge and get back to it. And the fact that we're talking about you can work from home and remotely. So these are completely new ideas, I think, that are very helpful. And it, again, helps us to connect with who we are. And we should love what we do and do what we love. I think that match needs to be there.
I also believe, I believe that each and every one of us has a present that it came to bring to this world. And actually, I think the coronavirus now caused us to pause and ask ourselves, is my work meaningful? Do I bring myself fully? Do I invest the right time in my life, because we understood that life is precious and we don't want to waste them anymore. So I also believe that it's a good thing that we are going, although it's like a chaotic period, I believe it's for the better and enabling people to be fine-tune the path, right? If they're not in the right job only because of the money, they're wasting the time. They don't bring the added value, they don't enjoy. So what is all life about?
Yeah, and that connection with money, because for many, that is the sign of success. Say, the more money I have, the more successful I am. And now we see, no, it's not. And it's definitely not a source of happiness, because a lot of people who have money, they actually seem less happy than people who have less. So that's kind of interesting. But I think the pandemic also showed us how we're all interconnected in different ways. So when bad things happen, and when it started, it was in China, it was far away. Oh, okay, that's their problem, not ours. Yes, it is, And in terms of also relating to others, because I can do Zoom conversations with you in Israel, which is amazing, and which a few years back it was there, the technology was there, but we wouldn't have thought of it. It didn't seem normal. It seemed like forced. Why would we do this? But now it's perfectly normal.
Yes, it created a big transformation also in our mind, right? Because before we needed to fly in order to create a meeting, and now it's okay to do a management meeting on Zoom worldwide. So yes, it actually changed a lot of things for the better. That otherwise it would have taken us like 10 years to embrace it, I think.
Yeah. And I think that kind of like interconnectedness, we should take to the workplace as well, and see each other as a team, as a unity, and instead of just the different elements. And also, again, autonomy. I think that's hugely important, because the triangle structure of the hierarchy that we have, I am the boss and you have to do what I say, it is not working. It's old-fashioned, and it's actually will be ridiculed at this point by the employee. They say, you know what, where are you from? What generation are you from? This is not how we do things now.
Yes, because the leadership changed. If the traditional leadership was based on external power, like title, hierarchical relationship, etc. Now like the coronavirus is transforming the global world, the new generations are transforming the workplace. They said, okay, we're not playing the game you played till now. We want to feel meaningfulness. We want a good integration between our leisure time and our work. We want to have an impact on the world. So we are not playing this game anymore. And you know that the new leadership actually requires us to connect to our internal power and to create relationships based on trust and partnership, right? To engage people from a deeper place that's really meaningful for them, to adopt a growth mindset, try new things, sometimes succeed, sometimes fail, but continue on. So we see that we heading toward a new leadership that requires us to connect better to ourselves and from this place to others. And another thing he talked about is the community. I think what gives meaning to people is being part of community. So the new workplaces required to create a community, like people, connecting people from a deeper place, that I'm coming to the work. You see me as a person, as a whole person, not only as a functional person. If I'm going through a tough time, you can ask me, how are you doing? I see you're struggling. How can I be there for you? So I will feel better connected to you, and I will want to help you next time that you will have something, because you saw me, not because of the functional aspect, right?
Yes, yes. And it's when you go to a workplace like that, you're excited because you say, I'm going to talk to these people. I'm going to share things that happened to me over the weekend and so on. But then there are others where you go to the workplace and they're just like fully focused on the computer. They don't even say hi, or they don't respond to you. And it's just like, it's discouraging. And you say, it shouldn't be like that. You know, we should have a workplace where we are quite open. And I think one thing I will mention too is diversity. And there is this push for diversity, which is very beneficial for leadership and for companies, because they will provide different points of views. And before, you just have the typical leaders, but now it's more in terms of age, in terms of race, in terms of nationality. It's much broader, and that is a huge benefit for everyone.
Yes, that's great. And in my book, I call it the dialogue space. I really believe that it's a central tool for leaders. To lead nowadays, to listen to different voices, as you said, to enable new things to emerge, to be present with the uncertainty and allow creativity. Otherwise, we really are not living this reality. You know, we usually have stories that we are telling ourselves, and it's not connected to reality, right? And once we are more present and mindful and sharing our experience and what's happening really in the moment, we can really connect to what's happening and find new path going forward. Otherwise, it doesn't feel connected.
I was surprised to find out, and last week I talked to Dr. Del Geste, who is the former president of the American Psychiatric Association, and he's written a book about wisdom, and he says that wisdom is a trait. So if wisdom is a trait, it's not something that you're necessarily born with, but that you can also develop, because part of it is environmental. So wisdom alongside empathy and compassion, these are things we can foster and develop within ourselves. So even if you have psychopathic tendencies, he told me, you can still develop wisdom and empathy to a degree, lesser degree, of course, but still. So I think that is very encouraging. And we can't just blame our genes and say, well, I just was born without any feelings. I think that's not true, because we can develop that, and we should. I think it's our obligation to do so.
That's for sure. You know, in order to connect to our inner wisdom, we need to practice. You can do it by meditation, by pausing, by listening deeper. And, you know, I think really in the Western world, we learn to disconnect from our own feelings, right? Because we were afraid that it will flood us, especially in the workplaces, right? It doesn't affect good in the ROI, so close it and leave it at home. But it doesn't work like this anymore, because actually the traits that we need nowadays that resides in our heart is the compassion, passion, creativity. And this is actually what differentiates us from the computers and the AI and the technology, right? So as human beings, we need to show up fully. And this is what we're required to do nowadays, to connect to our wisdom, to connect to our heart, to lead from our heart. And then we can connect to each and every one, right? Otherwise, the computer will take our job.
And yeah, and so in interviews, for example, job interviews, they are highly valued, but I read research that says actually they're not a good indicator of whether the person will be a good employee or not. And we base so much importance on it that you have to do well, and if you don't do well, or if you don't give a good impression, you won't get the job. But it's actually the other stuff, like the experience, the education, and so on, that's more important. But one thing that does come through in the job interview is the personality. And I think that is something that is undervalued. And I think people should hire for personality, and then all the other stuff could fall into place as long as, there is an honesty. And that's the problem too, because a lot of people with narcissistic tendencies are good at projecting something or someone that they're not. And sadly, a lot of leaders and executives fall for that image. And so what can we do in that sense to make sure that we choose the correct candidate for the position?
I think also nowadays people are not only looking on the CVs, they are really looking who is the person in front of them, and having a small talk and a conversation with them to understand who is the person who's standing in front of me beyond his skills. Does he connect, align with the culture, with the people that are working here? Can we connect? I think it's a crucial element nowadays, because skills we can require and we learn, and it's also changing, and we need to change and adapt. So I think what else we are looking now for recruiting employees that have a growth mindset, that they understand that will evolve and they will learn what they need to learn, because it's changing. We also don't know what will be in 5 years from now, what will be the skills that we need from their employees. But putting the energy on understanding who is the person in front of you, and maybe enable few more employees or managers to talk with them and see if what they think about him is connected to the company, to the culture. It's essential in order to have a good fit beyond the skills. So yes, it's only the technical skills, but it's not this anymore, only this.
And sometimes just a degree, and it's like, okay, you have a degree from Harvard, and I've met people and they are not very good in terms of other skills. And in fact, like, it's just a very limited set of skills that they have. And I think it's important to look at again, a holistic view of the people and just make sure, okay, they fall into place. And one thing that's often not valued enough is creativity. And I think that is something that people should look for more. People who are, apart from passionate and enthusiastic, but also creative.
I think like in Google, they give them a different problem solving, not from their area of expert, to see how they reach this problem solving. So I think they do look at this aspect, and creativity, it's essential nowadays. We need to be creative and to invent ourselves, our products, our offers. So it's really a crucial element. Yeah, I agree.
What about a sense of humor? What do you think?
That's how important is that? I think it's really important, because as we are more, I don't know if to say evolved, but as we are more present and self-confidence, we can also laugh on ourselves. It's not something that we need to show with our ego, that we need to be really coherent. And now we can laugh and have joy, in a joyful workplace. It's really productive. So I believe that the humor, it's really a crucial element to have. And
I think people are afraid to show that often, because they say, if I show a sense of humor, I'm not taken seriously, and I have to be serious to be taken seriously. And I think that is a misguided notion. And I just remember years ago, I went for a job interview. I wasn't really serious about it, but I just tried it out, and it was for 911 dispatch. And in my quick question, it was actually just lots of people there who got asked, and I said, well, I have a sense of humor. And then I thought, that's why they didn't call me back, because there are certain areas that I don't think sense of humor, it would help, but but I think it's important. I mean, that would have not been a job that I would have continued anyway. But it was just funny, the reaction of the person too. It's like, okay, next.
He didn't know what to do with it. He's not connected to this part. I really believe that a joyful workplace and people that don't take themselves too much serious, it's a strength. It's not a weakness. And people,
I see it as a matter of trust. If you don't have a sense of humor, I can't trust you, because there is something that is not in place. I think I find that as a general rule for myself, a personal rule. I think that's hugely important.
I think it's also important for you, to feel comfortable next to the people that you are present. So it's for you to say something, okay, he's feeling comfortable. That's how I like to act in the world. So yes, it's a sign.
I'd also like to know about your influences. What are your ideological, philosophical influences? You mentioned Viktor Frankl. I'm a huge fan of Viktor Frankl, and I love his ideas. And anybody else that you can talk about that is influencing your worldview and your ideas here?
You know, I also practice in the Zen Buddhism. I also come from the Buddhism. So, you know, adopting a beginner's mind. Dr. John Kabat-Zinn is the
I love him.
father of mindfulness. So I really love his books and what he says about it. So this is the place that I'm coming from. This, my PhD from the academia. I'm eclectic. I don't go with only one.
I completely agree. I'm the same. Yeah, I don't like boxes because I find that limiting. But for me, hugely influential was Sigmund Freud, and he was actually governor of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. So Einstein and Sigmund Freud, and just like impressed, and you graduated from there.
Yes,
so
yes.
It's just so amazing to be in a place like that.
Yes, I also like Pema Chodron. You know Pema Chodron, a spiritual teacher. She wrote When Things Fall Apart. I really love books and really a lot of wisdom she has there. So yes, you see, I read a lot of books and take it from different places and articles, scientific articles and books. And yes, I think at the end of the day, they're all paths to the same place, you know.
Yes. I like to see the connections between the things and say, okay, this is the same thing. This is related to this. And then kind of like you say, kind of create a hybrid of all those things. So you don't fall into a specific, I would say, trap or a limitation. And it's just accepting all the different points of views, the things that serve and help you. I think that's important.
Yeah. You know, like Carol Dweck talk about the growth mindset, right? And in the Buddhism, they talk about the beginner's mind, right? So seeing things in a fresh perspective. So I think it's kind of similar. You can find a similarity between different definitions. At the end of the day, are bringing the same essence.
Yeah, wonderful. Wise words. Thank you very much for this interview. So the book is Mindfully Wise Leadership, The Secret of Today's Leaders. Thank you very much for being here, Dr. Keren Tsuk. It was a pleasure and honor to talk to you.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed our conversation.
Take care.